Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video explaining the whole Toyless boosted situation. So a few things to note. What you're currently looking at is a screenshot that was provided to me by Badamja. I believe the original screenshot was taken by Apple Pies, or at the very least a program that generated this spreadsheet was created by a guy named Apple Pies. And this spreadsheet is the match history um, or a screenshot of the match history that was taken straight off the API for the account Toyless. Now I'll show you briefly his account here. He is in Illumination, which is quite ironic because this is a guild that's known to have a lot of boosting accounts. Anyways, I'll go back here just so you guys can look at it while I mention a few things. Quick disclaimer, none of these accounts have officially been taken action upon by Hypixel, although they have been reported a couple of months ago. The reports were denied, which I find extremely careless on the behalf of Hypixel staff. Furthermore, I'd like to add that I've contacted the guild owner of Illumination and a few higher up staff in the guild, asking them if they're willing to take action on these accounts, and they have also been extremely careless. In fact, not only careless but ignorant about the matter, and it makes me believe that they also encourage boosting to a certain extent, and this will hopefully be further backed by some more accounts that I'll look into in a future future videos for this guild, because I know there's a lot of players in this guild that actually have boosted stats, and now that we're actually making programs that can search for boosted stats and boosted accounts, it's getting easier and easier to find these accounts. Now what you'll notice here is this is all in the same mode, Bridge 3v3v3v3, which is actually the mode that whenever I mention stats in, it's always for this mode, because this is the mode that he boosted in. And this is the winning team, the losing team, or all the players that lost, all the players that won. In total, because it requires 12 players to play a game, you'll see 12 players for all these. It is cropped, however, I will show you some more proof of this exact screenshot in a little bit. Now you'll see here, these games actually ordered top down. So this is an earlier game and this is a later game. So the bottom games were taken after, or were played after the game above it. And as you can see, this is the current win streak of the player. So for example, the account Toyless, this is when it was his 17th win of his now leaderboard worthy, or not worthy, but leaderboard win streak, because he did boost to #1 on the 3v3v3v3 win streak leaderboard at the time. He has since then been beaten by a few legit players in the guild Bridgers, namely Pixelmaster. However, at the time he did boost to #1. And so you'll see this was his 17th win, his 18th, 19th, all the way to his 38th win of that win streak. And I believe this number here is rounds played, total wins, or something else of the sort. However, I think it's quite irrelevant. And then, yeah, so you'll see that. And if, in case anybody thinks that this screenshot is edited in whatever sorts, I'll further show this notepad right here, which is actually the raw data taken off of API a couple of days after he boosted from his account Toyless. These are all the matches I was able to script manually off the API using a script that I wrote in Python. And you'll see that essentially shows the exact same thing, same numbers and everything. And this .txt file will be linked in the description along with another .txt file that I'll show you in the I'll talk about in a second. So if you really want to go look into the screenshot to see if anything's edited here yourself, you can go look. Unfortunately, we're not able to gather this proof off the API currently due to an update to the API's match history logging, simply because there was a developer over at Hypixel who was extremely careless, and a lot of people think he's actually pro-boosting because of these actions that he has taken, where he has actually made it easier for people to boost by not showing names of players in match history anymore. So it's a little unfortunate. It's sad to see that Hypixel's actually not taking action against these boosters, but also making it easier for them to boost. I think it's extremely careless of them, and hopefully they try to achieve better in the future. That said, next I'll show you a list of all the stats, and so real quick I'll show you this. So this is essentially just a notepad that I created using a script that I'll talk about in a second. So the first player up here is going to be an example player. This is Pixel Master. He's the #1 player for wins in Bridge 3v3s. And he's a really good player, really chill guy. And this is just his stats as an example. I can confirm he did not boost any of his games. That said, all these other accounts are boosted accounts, and we'll talk about that in a second. So to essentially prove that he boosted, we've already proven that he was queuing against the same players over and over again, and that they were in a party. All that's left to really hook, line, and sinker this evidence is to prove that these accounts were AFK, or that essentially they're alts. Now we can't prove that they're alts because I don't have access to like any way of knowing who was logged on the accounts at the time. However, I can prove that they were AFK during these games. Now, all this data was scraped right now as of 2020 on the 13th of April at around 3:30 p.m. EST. And so not all the data is accurate to when they boosted. However, all of it is, considering they were in IYN. And so as with a lot of players in Illumination, they're extremely careless and ignorant. And because of this, they actually haven't played on these alts. These alt stats haven't changed at all for this mode since they boosted, or at least as far as I'm aware, they haven't, or not a significant amount at all. However, Toyless has purposely given himself a few losses since then to try and cover up his tracks. However, it doesn't help covering up your tracks on your main if all the alts are still there as proof with untouched stats. Now, you'll see here I have mentioned their name, and it'll go through the list of all the players that were on that. So there's 12 players, including Toyless and Unicifier, and then here this 13th player at the top is not a boosted account. However, all these following ones are boosted accounts. Now you'll see here I've got the player name, which is the current name, not the name that is necessarily on the match history. So all these names are the updated names. You can go name and see each one of these manually if you want to see the name history to match the names one by one. And in the description, I'll show another .txt file that currently has all the data that this information was scraped from. So a copy paste of every single player that is here, their API. Now, a lot of this data, if you want to see it yourself and you don't have access or knowledge to create a script to view this data yourself, there's a friendly website called Thorlon.com here, created by a really nice guy over at Hypixel. And you can click Tools, and then you can go to Player Profile, and you can enter in a name. For example, I can enter in Toyless, press Submit, and this will actually respond with all of the raw data off of the Hypixel Player API for said player. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff here, and it's very hard to find stuff. However, an easy way to bypass this is to press Control F, and then you can enter in a stat. So for example, Bridge 3v3v3v3 rounds played. And if we press enter on this, it'll bring us directly to the total rounds played, or the number for that stat, and it's very easy to find. There's only one result, so you can Control F manually and find all of them. As you can see, there's also wins and a few other things here. That said, I quickly want to go over these accounts. So the two accounts that boosted, I just want to show that these are like actual main accounts. These guys are high level, network level. They have a lot of karma. They have over 10,000 achievement points each, so they're in the 5 digits. That's usually when it starts getting a little more difficult to get AP. They have a lot of quests. They're in big guilds, or this one's not in a big guild, but you see they're both ++, so they have put money on their accounts, and these are main accounts that effort has been put into. As you can see with 12k AP, over 10 mil karma each, etc. That said, they also have a lot of quests done, over 3,000 quests each, which is insane. It's a lot of effort on these accounts. And so now I'll just move into the notepad here. And essentially, yes, I explained that. They've got their name, their network level, their best win streak of all time, their overall win rate, their overall KDR, their average goals per game, average bow shots fired, average melee swings per game, and average blocks placed per game. Now, as you can see, we are going to be using these example numbers from the #1 wins player for comparison with the other guys. As you can see, their average goals per game is quite similar, meaning they actually put an effort in to try and bypass people think they boosted. However, you'll notice their win rate is significantly higher, especially if you consider the Toyless' win rate was actually above 90 before he got those increased losses after we actually called him out for boosting. Their KDR is a little high, but nothing too special. Bow shots are quite low. Melee swings is fine. It's fairly close. However, blocks placed per game a little low. That said, what we really want to look at are these alt stats. Now you'll notice that if I go back to show you this screenshot, the winning team here actually changes, and the reason why they did this is on purpose on their behalf. They did this specifically because they wanted to try and bypass the anti-boosting check. Now, the anti-boosting check is a feature that was added on Hypixel tools a long time ago, over a year ago at this point, I think, where every X amount of wins, that number changes every couple of updates to duels, which aren't quite often, every couple of months, I guess. However, at the time of this, of them boosting, of this happening, the number was 17. And so at least once every 17 wins, they had to swap up the teams, otherwise they wouldn't get the wins for it. So they kept swapping up the teams to make sure that they were bypassing the anti-boosting check, which I find quite funny. That said, we'll return back to this notepad right here. And so now that we've looked at that, now here's where it really gets kicked in, that they're playing against AFK accounts. All these accounts have no KDR, so like no kills, no goals per game, no bow shots fired, no melee swings at all, and no blocks placed. So essentially, these accounts never clicked. Okay, they didn't touch their mouse all game, every single game. And this is their total amount of games played. So these guys have all played over 50 games without using their mouse. That's absurd. And so as you can see, as I go through these accounts, they all have really low network level 2, which like just shows that they're ults. Like this is extremely evident. Like this is an ult. This is also an ult. And as we go down, it just gets painfully clear that these guys are boosting. I'd also like to mention with this very last account at the very bottom, their profile is actually manually deleted by Hypixel, which I find quite ironic. I think it was for boosting or something else of the sorts. However, I was unable to find any Hypixel API data for this account on any of their IGNs. So I just showed not the most recent IGN, but the IGN showed on match history. All the IGNs here are not necessarily the IGNs on their match history, but are updated IGNs from most recent IGNs for these accounts. You can manually go name them, see them to find the matching account if you want on your own time. That said, down below you'll find the two .txt files that I'll add so that you guys can view all the data yourself if you are really curious and you believe that any of the data here that I've showed is manipulated by me in any way. That said, I think this is concrete proof that they boosted, and I don't think that there's any sort of counter evidence that can be provided demonstrating that they didn't boost. And I just find it extremely careless on the behalf of both the players in the guild and the Hypixel staff team for not punishing these players for having boosted. That said, hopefully this doesn't happen in the future, and if it does, that we'll catch it. Yeah, so that's all for today, and hopefully I don't have to make too many of these videos.